Good evening and welcome to the Press Box. My name is Melissa Ponzio and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes on the Press Box. With us is Jim Feagle and Rick Rapa. How you doing, guys?
Pretty good. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Let's talk about the Braves. Now, we're National League champs again.
That's
Is
right.
that
We're
great?
becoming spoiled here in Atlanta.
Yes, we
Seems
are.
like an annual event. Kind of getting used to it. The Braves seem to have a good young team to be good in the future. So we're hoping every year it's like this.
Great.
But you can see the city getting excited again as the playoffs are approaching, once again against Pittsburgh.
Right. And for the viewing audience at home, if you have any questions, comments, or criticisms, just call us. The number is 873-6713. Okay, let's talk about Bobby Cox and his picks for the three starters. Who do you think will be the fourth out of Pete Smith or Charlie Leibrandt?
I don't even know if there's going to be a four-star. I don't know if Bobby Cox knows who's going to be a four-star or what. It's just incredible choices that you have. You have Pete Smith, who I'll take my eat crow here officially on TV. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it, but he did it. You know, the team's 10-0 when he pitches. He's 6-0. He's doing incredible. Charlie Leibrandt, the hottest pitcher right now for the Braves, 2 straight shutouts. You've got 3 that the magic 3, I guess, Avery, Smoltz, and Glavine. You know, I really think maybe we should try and work Pete Smith into that lineup.
Yeah,
I'm really eating crow on that.
I think a lot will be dictated by how the series goes, too. After the third game, if the Braves are up 2-1 or 3-0, they might come back with Smith or Leibrandt. If they trail 1-2, I think they might come back with Smoltz. I believe that's why they picked him to pitch first, because that way, if they need him, he can pitch in game 1, 4, and 7. When the playoffs roll around, last year anyway, Smoltz becomes so focused, he's very tough to hit. He was their best pitcher in the postseason last year. So I think if they feel they're in trouble, they might come back with Smoltz. If they're ahead, I think they'll go with Leibrandt because between Leibrandt and Pete Smith, I think Pete can pitch out of the bullpen a little better. And they'd be wasting Leibrandt if he didn't do anything except for start.
I think if I had to pick somebody, I think Avery might be the best person to start. He's left-handed. He typically gives Pittsburgh fits when he pitches.
Did he start last year?
Well, he pitched 2 shutouts against Pittsburgh last year in the championship series, and he's just really tough. And he's been pitching well lately. He hasn't been getting the wins a lot, but he's actually been really consistent. His record's not really indicative of how good he's been pitching.
And he's a good cold weather pitcher also. You know, he's from Michigan. He's got to be used to the cold weather. Up in Pittsburgh last year, he seemed less affected by the cold weather than anybody. So he does have that little jinx over Pittsburgh, and he'd be a good choice, too, to pitch 2 or 3
I guess if I came down to it, I'd say Avery, Pete Smith, and Smoltz. That would be my top 3. How about you, Rick?
Glavine's like a wild card because he's been injured. He pitched well his last time out, but it's just a question whether he can continue to pitch well, and I guess we'll see with this next start.
What about Pena?
I think Pena's going to be around and doing well. He looked fairly well his last start. Is Bobby Cox definitely going to have him on the roster? I'm not 100%.
That's up in the air. Last time he pitched, he had a twinge in his elbow. Although he pitched well, he had a little soreness. But the Braves feel they can go with 11 pitchers. He'd be the 11th. Of course, they got Reardon as insurance out there, so they don't need him as a closer. Stanton and Wohlers are both pitching better. So Pena should have a role, but if his arm is a little sore, they can afford to carry him and just not use him.
All right. Well, let's talk about how these teams match up. What do you think?
Well, I guess you have to kind of break it down a little bit, position by position, trying to be kind of brief here. Or actually, let's just be brief or maybe go hitting versus pitching. Atlanta, I think, has just got much more dominating pitching staff. As far as starters, relievers, I don't think either team is just got that dominant closer. So it's time to say equal. Maybe the Pirates have a slight edge there, but hitting, I think the Pirates are going to really have a tough time if Atlanta comes through and throws a couple of lefties at them. They could possibly throw 3 lefties at them. Van Slyke's actually had a pretty good year hitting lefties this year, but traditionally he doesn't hit lefties too well. Bonds is just going to be Bonds. He's going to do whatever. He might be my pick for the MVP this year, by the way.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, well, the Pittsburgh's a lot like the Braves also, where they platoon a lot. The Braves use Bremen, Hunter, Olsen, Berryhill, all the outfielders. The Pirates, they use Bonds and Van Slyke constantly, but in right field they got McClendon, Alex Cole, Gary Varsho. Behind the plate, they've got Mike LaValliere and Don Slott. At first base, they got Merced and Rita. So they play lefty-righty like the Braves do. Both teams are very deep in their bench. They've got 17 or 18 good hitters, or 15, I guess they carry, whereas many teams after your first string players don't have that. So both teams are very deep in that respect. You're right about the lefties. When we pitch lefties, Avery, Leibrandt, Glavin, Pittsburgh has trouble with that. And as far as the pitching, they're a lot like us. They got the great starters. Drabek is having a great second half. Wakefield, that knuckleball, that scares me to death for the Braves. Randy Tomlin and Danny Jackson are both very good pitchers. So the starting pitching for both teams is excellent, and the question mark is the bullpen. The team that has better late inning relief might be the ones that come out on top.
Yeah, I think managing is usually critical at this stage also, but both teams, Jim Leland and Bobby Cox, I mean, they're both top-notch, top-drawer managers. You can't really complain. I don't think that's going to be as much a factor as if one team had a.
Right.
I'm not going to mention any managers' names, but it could be a little more of a factor than it's going to be in this series.
And last year, they came in favored, but we were the hot team at the end of the year, and we took them in 7 games. This year, I think the Braves are slightly favored, but they're the hot team. They've been, I think they've won like 40 of the last 55 games. So they're the hotter team. And I think our advantage lies in we have 4 games at home compared to 3 up there. And so it's almost a toss-up, but I give the Braves a slight edge.
And so do I.
Okay.
And for our viewing audience, if you want to call in, we are live. The phone number here is 873-6713. Okay, let's turn our focus to the American League now. There's still that thing with Milwaukee and Toronto. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think that thing is any night.
Right.
Yeah, I hope Toronto wins it. Because if Milwaukee is that hot and comes through and wins, I think Milwaukee just on that momentum might take the A's, and I'd sure hate to be the team out of the National League facing such a hot team who's on such a mental high. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of hoping Toronto just ekes it out. But
Milwaukee's got a problem, too, because they played their last 3 games in Oakland, the team with the best record in the American League. So if you wanted to pick a way to finish your season in a pennant stretch with 3 games on the road, the last team you'd pick is Oakland. They've got to sweep the A's, while Toronto has to lose 2 out of 3 to lowly Detroit. So the odds are just stacked against the Brewers, and it looks like it's going to be Toronto and Oakland. In that scenario, I'd give Oakland the advantage only because they have Dennis Eckersley. They both have great lineups up and down the lineup, but with Eckersley coming in, he's almost unhittable, and if the game's close at the end, the A's have the big advantage.
Yeah, it's being close at the end. I think is going to be hard to do at some point though, because I don't think Oakland they just don't have the starting staff that they used to have. You got old Dave Stewart and Moore and Welch and these guys, and I guess Darling's had a all right year, and it just amazes me with the new faces that they've had, Bordick and all these guys. How are they getting here now? You just think when you thought of Oakland, you just think Dave Stewart, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, and now it's kind of trickled down into just a little scrappy team, really. And
what about the Oakland-Texas trade? You think that'll help them?
The Oakland-Texas trade, I think, if I were Texas, I would have made that deal. Jose Canseco's for whatever attitude problems he may have, he's probably one of the better hitters to come along in the last 15, 20 years. As far as strict power hitters, he's just fun to watch. I mean, he's a guy that can just, might knock the ball out of the stadium. And
will it help the A's get to the World Series?
Well, Ruben Sierra is an excellent player also. Canseco, he's the big headline person. But Ruben Sierra is a very good player, and he gets about as much accomplished as Canseco. He gets a lot of RBIs. He hits for a higher average but less homers. But he sprays the ball over the park, and he plays really good defense. They also got Jeff Russell coming out of the bullpen. I'm surprised they'd made a trade like that so late in the season. But it disrupted the team at first, but the last 3 weeks they've been playing great baseball. So I don't know if they're any less equipped to win the World Series now as they were before. They're just a good team up and down, and I think Sierra can plug in for Canseco, not the marquee name, but as good of a ball player.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sierra is a marquee name. I mean, here's a guy who's, starting the foundation for Hall of Fame type stats. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I just think that Canseco is, just one of those players you have to take that gamble with. It's not even really a gamble, I don't think. The only gamble is if he's healthy or not. But.
Okay. Well, if our viewing audience wants to call in, our number is 873-6713. Come on, we're counting on you to call in, get some fighting words going on here. But for now, let's go back to baseball for a second here. Last show, Ty and Jeff gave their picks for the MVP and for the Cy Young Awards. Let's hear yours.
Well, unfortunately, I think Greg Maddux has really come to the forefront in the Cy Young, unfortunately for Tom Glavine. I really believe the Braves kind of bungled with the Glavine injury. He got hurt 6 weeks ago, and they probably should have sat him out a couple of starts then so he'd be fine right now. But they kept on pitching him with his injury, and it got worse and worse, and he pitched more poorly. So now, even though they have the same amount of wins, Glavine's stats are not as good as Greg Maddux, and I cannot believe the campaigning in the papers and on TV that I've seen for Maddux. It's just everywhere. His stats don't lie, though, and I think, the what have you done for me lately, since they're voting here at the last week of the season, everybody's going to remember Maddox's great finish. Mm-hmm. I think he might have the slight edge, and I'd love to see Glavine win it, but I think Maddux will get it.
Well, I'd like to argue with you, but I think you pretty well summed it up as far as, it's Glavine for his dominant, what was he, 18-3 at one point or something? It was incredible, but it's, Maddux, I was looking, he's pitched 40 more innings than Glavine. He's leading the league in innings. More strikeouts, same number of walks, including those number of innings pitched, better ERA, same number of wins. I'd have to seriously look at my worst team. It's if there's anything that Glavine might have in his favor is that the Braves are the National League West champions. But I think that Maddux probably has been the overall the best pitcher in the National League.
He's been on a salary drive. He's going to be the top free agent after this season, so he's been bearing down more than usual, and the results have shown in his pitching.
What about MVP? Excuse me.
Well, I think it's a tough call. Barry Bonds has really came on strong at the end of the year. Sheffield, his stats don't lie. He's leading the league in batting. He's amongst the leaders in homers and RBI, so was a legit Triple Crown threat. But it's his defense is mediocre at best. I think Pendleton. I'd probably give the edge to him over Sheffield, and I think Bonds has made out a case over the last month to merit serious consideration, and he's I'd say for his position, being a left fielder, he's the best in the game. And he can hurt you offensively and defensively, just like Pendleton. But I think he's been the reason the Pirates are still in it.
I think Sheffield's chances went down when he got injured and he didn't win the Triple Crown. And one quick thing is the Barry Bonds has missed many games. He's got 100 less at-bats than these guys and has done as much. So I'd give the edge to Bonds.
Okay. Well, right now we have a phone call. Thank you for calling in, caller.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Irvin.
Yes, Irving.
And I would like to ask him, does he think Barry Bonds is going to be most valuable player?
Do you think Barry Bonds will be most valuable player?
I think we both probably sway in that way. And it's a close race. Pendleton's definitely the team leader and carries a lot of weight. And Bonds might be a little bit disruptive in the clubhouse. I haven't really seen a lot of that since the spring training incident with Jim Leland, but he's really came through down the clutch when his club needed him, and I'd still have to sway that way.
And his public relations haven't been as bad this year. He used to be a very arrogant, abrasive person. This year he's been a little easier going. The writers who are human might have gave the edge to Pendleton last year because he's such a great guy, but this year Bonds has been okay, and there won't be that little edge to Pendleton, and I think Bonds, it's his turn to win it this year, and Pendleton will probably finish second.
Right, okay. Well, Irving, thank you so much for calling, but now we're going to turn our attention to Magic Johnson and the magic number of $14.6 million that this man is making. Let's talk about this.
That's unbelievable. It's just mind-boggling. The highest paid athlete before this in basketball was Patrick Ewing at $9 million. Ryan Sandberg makes $7 million. Those were outrageous figures. To me, I think if they offered Magic $4 or $5 or $6 million, he would have taken it. It's like if you go to an auction and somebody bids $10, then $12, and all of a sudden somebody bids $500. That's what the Lakers did. They just blew it out of proportion. I'm not sure how it fits under the salary cap. There must be something. But the Lakers wouldn't have done that if they felt they couldn't fit it in the salary cap. But here's a guy whose future is so uncertain, and everybody pulls for him, and everybody likes him. But in 2 years from now, who knows where he'll be? And $14 million guaranteed. No wonder he's coming back. What a great salary.
Right. But maybe, do you think the team itself will make make more money than they're paying him in like promotional stuff, ticket sales? Because I mean, everyone loves Magic Johnson now that he's come out that he's HIV positive and he's a positive role model. What do you think about the team's aspect of making money? You think that's probably why it's such a high salary?
I just can't imagine what they're going to surround him with. If next year, well, not this year, but this year he only makes, I believe, $5 million, and next year he makes 14.6. I mean, I'm just wondering, are they going to fire everybody to fit everybody up under the salary cap? I mean, it'll be a one-man circus. I mean, you're going to have very marginal talent that's going to be able to fit under the salary cap. A little embarrassed. I'm not exactly sure what that cap is, but I'll look into it and let everybody know.
Well, weren't you reading in the paper? They even said in the paper that he doesn't even have to play as many games. I mean, there's no stipulations on how many games he has to play.
It's absolutely guaranteed.
He can stay home even when they go to away games, right? Wow, that is totally amazing.
The ultimate situation. It's never happened before in pro sports. It's almost like Dion, just playing when he wants to, coming and going.
Right.
But as far as promotions, the Lakers, they're going to sell out every game. And until this year when they had Magic, their stuff, I think, sold more than anybody except for maybe the Bulls all over the NBA world. The hats and the jackets and the shirts. So they'll just get back to a level where they were before. They can't really fill up the stadium anymore. It only holds 17,000, and there's only so many T-shirts and things they can sell. But now Magic can even be more of an ambassador for his crusade against AIDS because he's going around to all these cities constantly. But the bottom line is they could have signed him for less, and he would have taken it.
And what's going to happen if he survives this year and he comes back? Are they going to offer him more? I mean, could that happen?
This is 2 years from now.
2 years. Well, even if he comes back, I mean, just because he has the virus, I mean, if that's what we're talking about, his lifelong expectancy for the 2 years, I mean, if he doesn't get the full-blown AIDS, then he could, be around for a long time. Could they offer him more money? Would they do that? I mean,
I would think they would play it by ear. In 3 years from now, Magic will be 36, and at that point, you start talking about retirement anyway, because basketball players, with rare exceptions, after they're 32 or 33, like Larry Bird slowed down and he retired.
How old was Larry Bird, by the way?
I think he was 35 when he retired.
Okay.
And Dr. J retired when he was 37. So Magic will be at retirement age, and at that point they'll sit down and maybe just let him go.
Okay. Well, we have a phone call now from Jeff Miranda, who is the director of ticket sales for the Atlanta Knights Hockey Association. Hi, Jeff. Are you on the air?
Sure am. How you doing?
Okay. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Good. Well, how are things going down at the office?
Going super. We've got a scrimmage going on between our black and gold squads, and have over 1,000 people in here right now, catching the first glimpse of the Atlanta Knights, or future Atlanta Knights. So things are shaping up quite nicely.
That's great. 1,000 people. Is the public allowed to come down and actually watch the scrimmage games?
What's that?
Is the public allowed to come down and watch them practice?
Yeah, basically what we had is a $2 donation at the door. At this point right now, they're wide open, so anybody can come down and finish watching the scrimmage. It was $2 donation that was going to the Atlanta Knights Foundation, which basically is going to support youth hockey here in the Atlanta region.
Okay. When is your first real game?
Our first real game is our home opener, Saturday, October 17th. Against the Cincinnati Cyclones, and we've changed our start time to 5 o'clock. Generally, we'll start at 7:30 on Saturday nights, but we changed it to 5 o'clock to accommodate the fact that the Braves could be in the World Series, and that could be Game 1 here in Atlanta. So we're going to have our game at 5 o'clock, and we'll have a big screen TV set up for people that want to stay and watch the Braves game afterwards.
That's very nice.
So the 17th of October on a Saturday night would be our first official inaugural game here at the Omni. But don't forget, we still have Tampa Bay coming in tomorrow night at 7:35, and they're our parent club, so we'll see some of those same players here in Atlanta.
Oh, great.
Jeff, let me ask you something. This is Jim Feagle. I'm one of the sports analysts on the show.
Right.
Yeah, who's going to be in goal?
For the Knights?
Yeah.
We'll actually probably announce our roster as early as tomorrow. I haven't seen any of the last cuts. I think a lot is going to depend on what Tampa is doing up there. They still are carrying, I believe, 4 goalies. So they'll have to assign at least 1, if not 2, which could change the whole complexion of our situation here.
How many goalies are y'all going to keep, the Knights?
Generally, I think teams usually try to keep 2, on occasion 3 if there's injuries. Or on this level, a lot of teams, I'm sure, would like to keep 3 in case they have one shuttling back and forth to their parent club. But really can't speak for Coach Ubriaco. Like I said, they will be finalizing our roster over the next couple of days, and a lot of it's going to depend on what Tampa decides on the major league level.
Can we expect to see a woman in goal anytime soon?
Well, it's quite possible. She's in goal tonight. She's
Oh, well, how's she doing?
playing for the black squad. I believe they're trailing 3-2, but I haven't had a good chance to get out there and check her out. But from what I understand, they're not rushing her along at all, and they're going to work with her on the ice as well as off the ice in terms of strength and conditioning and what have you. So they're not going to rush her, but again, I don't think they're putting pressure on any one particular person, whether it's female goalie, male goalie, or forward or defenseman. But it's anybody's guess whether she'll stick here or not.
Jeff, this is Rick Rapa. I'm another one up here on the panel.
How you doing?
Great, thank you. I was just wondering, being a new team, do you expect to be very competitive this year, or is it like expansion baseball, where the teams have to struggle for a few years before they get the kind of players they want and become competitive with the other established teams in the league?
Yeah, we actually think we have an advantage being the minor league, quote-unquote, affiliate of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They aren't expecting to be too competitive on the NHL level, and they're going to play around with their roster quite a bit. So we're expecting it to work in the reverse. We're expecting to see some of the better players on their team that would be on the bubble and may come back down to the minor leagues. We're expecting to get some help down the stretch from Tampa Bay because we're not expecting them to be in the NHL playoffs. A perfect analogy of that would be the San Jose Sharks. They had a good season but missed the playoffs last year. Their minor league affiliate is in Kansas City Blades, and they got the benefit of extra players that were sent down over the course of the season, and they literally tore up the IHL. They were the best team in the league, and they won the Turner Cup in the International Hockey League. We're expecting the same, a little undue pressure, but from what I understand, the Hockey News picked us to finish in the top 2 or 3.
Oh.
So we have as good a shot as anybody, but like I said, we're expecting to get some players down the stretch to help us out and put us over the hump.
Okay, well, Jeff, I'd like to thank you very much for calling in for us.
Appreciate it.
And we'll
Hope
talk to
see
you
guys
later.
at the Omni.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Good talking to you.
Okay, Rick, now it's time. Let's talk about the collectible market in Atlanta and maybe some cards now that are hot or not. For the viewing audience, if you didn't catch our season last time, Rick Rapa was on our show before talking about collectibles, and so we brought him back because we love him. So let's talk.
Okay, I bought a few things. Right now, the hottest thing is obviously the Braves.
Right.
As they head into the playoffs and hopefully the World Series, almost everybody who comes in wants to collect Brave items. I bought a Brave team
Right.
set.
Can we show this?
It's got a little booklet that says Atlanta Braves team set on the front. It's got all the players, Glavine, Dion, Justice, Smoltz. Those are the hottest people in Atlanta right now. We even have little postcards here on the table that people go down to the stadium and get autographed. They're nice.
Ron
They're
Gant.
postcard size, and they're good for autographing. But anything with the Braves right now is hot. We sell T-shirts, license plates, tie clips, things that just wouldn't sell during the regular part of the season. But here at the playoffs and World Series, it's almost like Christmas with Brave items.
Right.
So, and it happened last year too. We noticed things just pick up. People coming from out of town. Everybody wants to get the team set of the championship teams. So by far, the Braves are the most popular collectible item right now.
These, I guess, would be really good for autographs since they're so large.
Right, they take them down to the game. You can get a nice, big, clear signature. Sometimes on smaller cards, the item gets cramped or the surface is dark and you can't really see it that well.
Now, are these collectibles too? Although are they postcards? I have never seen these before.
Yeah, they are postcards, and people collect them, but not like baseball cards for the reason that baseball cards might go up in value, where those are just like a nice little memento, sentimental value. It's just a nice looking picture. And people collect those for that reason, not to hope that one day they'll be worth a lot of money.
Who are the hottest players in all of baseball right now as far as their card bag is concerned?
Well, outside of the Braves, Sheffield was very hot all summer as he was going for the Triple Crown. Of course, now that he's injured, he might cool off a little bit. His teammate Fred McGriff was pretty hot. Ken Griffey Jr. is always hot. He's a good young player. But the new rookies this year, they might be unknown in the Atlanta area, but Pat Listash for the Milwaukee Brewers, Kenny Lofton for the Indians, Dave Fleming, University of Georgia grad, who pitches for Seattle. They're all in Rookie of the Year contention, and their cards have all been pretty hot. People at this time of the year are looking for award winners, so Barry Bonds cards and Pendleton cards will get hot. The Cy Young Award winners, Maddox or Glavine or Roger Clemens or Eckersley. And at this point of the year, at the end of the season, as things get wrapped up, people are looking for the award winner cards.
Well, what about like cards for football or basketball?
Right. it's a transition time now also, because as you start getting into the winter sports, football is just now coming out. I've got a box of Upper Deck football here, which we recently went through a case of those in a couple of days.
Wow. How many are in here?
There's 36 packs in the
Okay.
box. And now that football has started, the Falcons have a little interest. You know, they're kind of in the shadow of the Braves for now, but the Falcons have interest. Certain players like Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, the star players, start getting collected. And as the season goes on and as baseball ends, football gets bigger and bigger. Then next month, it happens with basketball and hockey, because that starts. That's basketball.
Can we
that's
show this?
called the Classic Picks. And it's put out by a company called Classic, and they have exclusive rights to Shaquille O'Neal, the #1 draft pick out of LSU. And he's really the most anticipated entry into the NBA since Magic Johnson and Larry Bird 10 or 12 years ago. So those are going very quickly, because that's the only place you can get a Shaquille O'Neal card right now is out of that. Christian Laettner is also hot, and Alonzo Mourning. There's a lot of good rookies this year. But Shaq kind of overshadows everything, and people are really hot to get his cards right now.
I see you got a Eric Lindros card here. You're
Right.
just playing out at the Omni tonight,
Right.
For everybody to see out there.
Yeah, ever since he signed with Philadelphia, that made big news. Last year he didn't play, and he had the card, and it was pretty hot. But as the season went on and people forgot about him or didn't forget about him, but he was pushed in the background, his cards weren't too in the forefront. Now he signed with the Flyers. You see him in endorsements. He's on TV. He's got the big contract. His card's the hottest thing. It's unusual for a hockey card to be hot in September, October. But his cards have doubled in value since he signed with Philadelphia.
He's a stud, that's for sure. He's a stud.
He's only 19 years old, and the guy's got the big future. And everybody wants to speculate on him, because in the preseason games last night in Atlanta, he scored 2 goals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes, he's the best player on the ice normally.
If you had to pick your top 5, what would be your top 5 collectible cards right now?
I'd say player-wise,
Yeah.
in Atlanta right now, we'd have to go with some of the Braves. Tom Glavine's very hot. Deion Sanders, John Smoltz, Avery, just down the starting lineup of the Braves. Then you got Sheffield, you got Listash, and then Shaquille O'Neal has to be in there somewhere else. So
I got a good question for you. Who's your top 5 picks as far as no one knows about them, that you just think that they're going to slide in and just be the stars of the future that are unknown for today? They have cards out now.
A Rapa vision.
Like you're saying, Pat Listash, shortstop from Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's relatively unknown. You know, some of these guys in the Braves, we know them, but Javi Lopez and Klesko, nationally they're not really well known. They should be pretty hot. There's obscure players in the minor leagues who will be coming up.
I went by the way last night to that game, and those guys are huge. I mean,
Oh,
all
boy.
3 of them I looked at, and I was like, Atlanta's got a pretty small lineup, I think. We had those guys out there, and we looked like a football team. You know,
200 pounders, look like Falcons.
or 220 or something. I think is probably the average between them. They're huge. I
Yeah,
mean,
so they should be able to hit the ball a long way, and it looks good for the future.
Okay. Well, Rick, thank you so much for filling in.
It's
And
good to be
Jim,
here.
as always, it was a real good show. And thank you, Jeff Mirander, for calling in also. And we won't be back next Friday, but the 16th we'll be here. We'll be looking for you. And thank you, Irving, for calling in. You made my day. And we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Thanks a lot for tuning in.